Hey guys, JJ here with Well-Rounded Living, and today I'm going to be showing you a fun craft you can do with the entire family, and that is making paracord bracelets. Now these come in a wide variety of options. You can either do something thin like this, and this is called the Cobra weave, which is what we'll be doing today. You can do it in one or two colors. Here is a smaller example in one color. Or you can do something called a double Cobra weave, which I have here, which is double the amount of paracord. And in any of these options, you can do single color, double color. You can pick where you want the second color to be. But it's a fun little braiding type project that adults and kids can do. And if you are into prepping or survivalism or something like that, these are great because you have rope with you at all times. So let me move the camera and we'll get started. Okay guys, here we go. So here's all the pieces you're going to need in order to create a paracord bracelet. You'll definitely need some scissors to be able to cut the bracelet to length. You'll need a lighter. Any lighter will do, but I found that these little Bic style lighters work the best simply because of how you end up melting some of the paracord, and I'll show you that a little bit later. And then you'll need a little clip, and this is going to be what you use to attach the bracelet to itself so that it wraps around you. And I will put links to these little clips on Amazon in the comment box below, as well as links to where you can buy all different colors of paracord. I think Paracord Planet is the company that I've bought a majority of my paracord from, and I really like their paracord in particular because it's fairly thick, and the sheath here, if you look at this, it's got multiple strands. It's 7-strand paracord, so it has multiple strands on the inside with a sheath around it. And the sheath itself holds its shape really, really well, and I'll show you why that's important in a minute. But some paracord that I've gotten from other companies has been kind of flat. They all pretty much do the same thing. They're 550 paracord. They can handle 550 pounds of pull before they break. But from a crafting perspective, having a sheath that holds its shape is very important. So let's start by showing you why, as well as this is going to be a demonstration on how you create a multiple colored bracelet. So first thing you do is you would cut 2 strips of paracord. Now I just have small ones here for demonstration purposes, but for the standard paracord bracelet you're going to need somewhere around 8 feet of one single length of paracord. Now what I found is I usually end up using around 7.5 feet. If you had a really big wrist and needed to make something larger, you may need up to 10 feet. But 8 feet has been an amount that will cover everyone I know in their wrist sizes. So for 2 colors, you would need 4 feet of each color. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to use these little short lengths. Now, to start, since this is short, I'm just going to pull a little bit of this back through the other end here. But typically what you would do is go ahead and pull it out a little bit, snip it, and then pull the sheath back up like this. So you'll see what I've got here now is a little empty sheath on that end. Okay? First thing I want to do is take my lighter and I want to just singe the edges of this in order to hold that opening open. So just a very light singe, and now you'll see that there is a little circle there that I can then put the end of the black one in. Now to start out, in order to make sure it fits really well, I'm going to singe the black one. Now this is where these little Bic lighters can come in handy. Watch how I can singe the edge in order to give it a nice rounded look. I can just kind of wipe it right along here. And then in order to singe off that little extra bit there, just a little more heat. So, now that I have my singed section there, you see that? I'm going to put it inside the other color. Now that I have the two together, I will take my lighter, and what I want to accomplish here is I want to melt the red side around the black side. And then I'll just give it a second to harden up. Alright, and now I have a single length of paracord. So if you had 4 feet and 4 feet of this, you could end up with an 8-foot strand that, when you do what I'm about to show you here, would create you a 2-colored bracelet. So, we'll put this aside, and we will move on to the actual bracelet. So to start with, you're going to take your 8 feet of paracord and fold it in half. So I have these two ends together over here, and here is the fold. You will then take your clip, and you are going to pick a side. Either side doesn't really matter. These clips actually have 1 on this side and 2 on this side in terms of slots that you can use. This would typically be for like a cinch down if you had some kind of nylon, maybe a 1/2-inch piece of cordage, but it's the thicker flat cordage that would go in here that you would cinch down with. So we're using paracord. You may find a better buckle for this, but I really like these, partially because they're a bit curved. I don't know if you can see that there, but it wraps around your wrist really well. So I like these a lot. You're going to slide your loop through the top of the clip here, just like that. Okay? Now, just push the loop down and take all of the rest of your paracord and push it through that loop. Okay, so I'll show you again. You have your loop, you have your buckle, put the loop through the top of the buckle, fold that down a little bit so that you have easy access to this loop on this side, and then push all of the rest of your paracord through that loop. There we go. Now you pull tight. Just like that. That is how the paracord will initially attach to your buckle. Now for the next step, we are going to take all of this remaining paracord and loop it up through the bottom of this buckle. Both sides. And just pull it through in order to get a very rudimentary bracelet here. Now the next step you want to do is to actually stick your hand in here and measure how big you want this bracelet to be. Now you want to make it a little loose on your arm, because what you're going to do is you're going to be weaving around this center thread here. So it's going to tighten up as you go simply because there's going to be more material wrapped around right there. Okay? So my suggestion would be set it up so that you can fit 2 fingers under that buckle. And then that is going to be your point where you want to start. So for that, I'm just going to hold right here so that I know where exactly I want it. And then I will unbuckle the buckle. All right. Okay. So what we want to do now is take the left side and loop it out like this. Lay it across. Let me lay this down so you can see better. Lay it across the top of this center strand. Go ahead and put your finger on there to hold it in place. And now take your other strand over here and you will go over the top of this one, under these 2, and back through this circle you have over here. So let me demonstrate. Loop, over, under, through. Then you have your little first Cobra knot here. So just slowly pull it up to make it tighter. And be very careful at this point because if you pull too hard, you will adjust the length of your bracelet. So once you get it up there close, squeeze it tight right at the end. And then we want to check for length. So let's take it back around our wrist and ensure that this length is what we want. Now, as you can see, during the process of doing our first loop in order to hold it in place, it shrunk. So now that tells me I need to loosen up this knot over here in order to make enough space so that it doesn't cut off circulation whenever I put it on when it's finished. So I will take it off again here. I will loosen each of these loops just a bit. Then I will take the center strand and pull. You see how that just loosened up? So I will go ahead and make this tighter again. And then I will try it back on. Much, much better. All right, let's take this back off. Tighten this up so it doesn't loosen up on me. And until you get the second loop, it will continue to adjust itself fairly easily. So just be careful when moving it around so that you won't have an issue there. The first time we did this, we took this side and looped it over. All we do from here on out is reverse that and go back and forth. So now, take this side, loop it over, just like that. Over, under, and through. Then tighten. There we go. Now the other side. Loop. And it definitely gets easier after you have the first one or two done. Over, under, through. loop, over, under, through. Now after you get a few of these done, you want to push them up so they're nice and tight. And I am purposely, just so you know, doing this video in such a way where I am showing you my mistakes. I could edit this down, or I could practice this repeatedly beforehand in order to make sure that it's perfect, and I've seen videos where people do that. But the problem is, when I mess up, it's usually not following exactly the way I saw it on a video. So then I have to figure out, what did I do differently? What did I do wrong? Whereas this way, I'm hoping you can see the mistakes I'm making and learn from them yourselves. So all I'm doing here, while I'm going back and forth, is I am taking one side. And by the way, here's something. If you lose track of where you are, I want you to see this right here. You notice how this strand on this side has a loop that goes over the top of it, and then it comes down and faces below, whereas the one on this side has a loop under it and it comes up. If you look at it from this direction, you can kind of see how this one wants to come down and this one wants to go up. The one that wants to go down, the one that has the loop over top of it, no matter where you are, that is always the strand that will, in the next iteration, be looped. So in this case, this side is going down. You will loop it. You will then take the other side and go over, under, and back up through. I cannot tell you how many times I've been doing this where I got off just a little bit and I had to backtrack like 10 braids in order to fix it. So just remember, whichever side is going down is the one that will loop next. Now I'm going to leave the video running the entire time I finish this bracelet off because I want you to see exactly how long one of these takes. And this was measuring my wrist and everything. Now before we get too far, I'll tell you what, why don't we go ahead and try this back on, make sure it's still fitting. Alright, yep, still fits pretty good even though it has this extra thickness on it. So let's keep on going. Now, how thick the bracelet is and how tightly it's strung depends on how tight you make these weaves. If you just kind of let it go, the bracelet itself will be a little more loose and will contain a little bit less paracord. But if, as you go, you take all of these braids that you've done so far and you push them down, did you see how that just squished there? What's going to happen is this is now going to be much more stiff, much tighter. It's also going to stretch your inner strands a bit. So it's possible for this to kind of get cinched up in between your braids, but if you're constantly pulling, you are ensured that what you end up with is the correct length bracelet you were planning on when you started. Now I just pushed that down yet again, all the way down. You see that? Now look at how much space I have left here. It looked like we were 3/4 of the way done before I did that. That is that much more paracord I can put on here for those of you interested in prepping. And it's going to make this that much stiffer. You see how stiff that is compared to what it was? That's actually taking quite a bit of effort for me to bend. All right, let's keep going. Obviously, as you can tell, I am not a hand model. I don't have this down perfectly. I have just made, a dozen or more of these. I will do another video on how to do a double Cobra weave. This is called a single Cobra weave. The only difference is when you get to the other end, you come back and do this same weave again and go all the way back up here. And when you're doing that, that's when this second slot here comes in handy, because you can come back through that second slot before you finish it off if you're doing the double Cobra weave. But we're not going to do that here today. That makes for a much thicker bracelet, which means when you are measuring it for your wrist, you have to be a little more careful because you have to make it bigger, because the two rounds of thickness are going to be making it that much tighter on your wrist. And that's one you want to get right the first time through. I cannot tell you how many times I have had to undo the entire both directions weaves because I miscalculated in the beginning. And suddenly your craft isn't as much fun when you have to do that. Now thankfully for these, it doesn't take long to make. And if I were doing this without filming, it would take me about half the time that you're seeing right now. Now, I am just about at the end. Let's see if I can push this down a bit. Yep, put a little more in. Now remember, I used 8 feet on this. Now because I keep pushing it down, I'm getting very close to using the full 8 feet. You can see here I probably have a foot left, 6 inches on either side. So we will do 1 or 2 more braids. I think we can get 1 more in there. So remember, it's loop, over, under, through, and then pull it tight. And there we have our bracelet. Now, the color I'm using here, I don't think I mentioned it before, is red. This comes in a wide variety of colors: red, pink, light blue, dark blue, OD green, black, neon green and yellow, and a whole slew of colors. So you can make these very decorative. They can be a fashion accessory for kids if they want to wear it to school. They're a fun little craft that anybody can do. You know, elementary school kids can obviously, if they can braid each other's hair, they can do this. And they can probably do this even if they can't braid each other's hair, because I'm not good at braiding hair. So now that we are down to the end, let me go ahead and show you how you finish this off. All you do is you take your scissors and you cut about 1/4 inch from where it comes through the last loop. Okay? So I'm going to get it up close here, and I'm going to cut this so you see about how far I did. And paracord is actually fairly difficult to cut through. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Alright? So that's what we have now. All we have left to do to finish this off is we're going to take our lighter and we're going to burn this side and this side. And paracord doesn't necessarily burn, it melts. So what will happen is we'll kind of create a little cap here that's going to keep this piece of the paracord from going back through this loop. Similarly here, the melted cap will keep it from going back through this loop. Now, if you ever need to undo this because you need to use the rope for something, whether it be to tie something down or for a tarp or whatever, all you would do is push your little cap that you've created out of the melted paracord through the hole here and do the same thing on this side, and then just unravel it all the way. So, here we go. I'll show you how this is done. Keep burning a little bit on its own. And I'll just let it go until I see a nice rounded cap on there, and then blow it out. Now it is going to be black. When paracord melts and burns, it does turn black. So as you'll see, that has created a nice little melted cap that's going to hold the bracelet together. Now we'll do the other side. We'll let it burn down a little bit. That looks good. And now that side has melted. Now these are going to be hot, so don't put your finger right on that melted part. Okay, let me test the bottom area here. That's cool enough. So let's put it on and check it out. And there we go. My very own custom-sized paracord bracelet. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about this or if there's anything else you'd like to see. I will do a separate video going over the double Cobra weave another time. Check us out at wellroundedliving.com, follow us on Facebook, or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'll see you soon.